Hi, my name's Neil. I'm based up in the north coast of Northern Ireland, where I lead a church along with my wife Janet. I'm someone who's grown up with privilege. I've never known what it is to be the minority in a culture. I'm male, I'm white, I'm from a middle class background, and here in Northern Ireland I even come from a religious or political background that for the most part of my life has been the majority here. That means that I'm actually really well designed to thrive in the context in which I grew up in. And for many white people in the UK, that's exactly the situation that they grew up in as well. That actually our context was designed in a way that we were able to thrive quite easily within that. Now I know that for some people and that they don't even see that, and most of us don't even see that. The reason we don't see that is because we've only ever been who we are, right? So we don't know what it is to have it any differently than that, and that's so often why we don't understand. And many white people that I talk to about this, they get a little annoyed and they say, are you saying that I'm not talented, that I didn't deserve the opportunities, that I didn't work hard for that? And of course, I'm not saying that at all. I'm not saying at all that white people aren't smart, that they didn't deserve it, that they didn't work hard. No one is saying that. I think what we're saying in this thing is that we've got many black and brown brothers and sisters that were just as talented, just as hardworking, just as many gifts, but they did not get the same opportunities that we get, and pretty much that was just down to the colour of the skin. That's called white privilege. You see, I grew up in an area of Northern Ireland, and I still live in an area of Northern Ireland that is 99% white. And so I went to a school of about, I think, 800 pupils, and we had 2 pupils within that school that I remember that weren't white. And as I was asked this question about what my views of racism are in the UK, I thought about those 2 pupils. You see, those pupils in our school, they used to make like black jokes. They used to live up to racial stereotypes and say those phrases about themselves. And so we concluded if they said that sort of stuff, then it was okay for us to join in as well. They never seemed annoyed about that. But as I've got older and I've watched what's been unfolding in our world, I've looked back on those days and realised they weren't okay with that at all. The reason they made those jokes, the reason that they said the things that they said were actually not because they enjoyed it, but because they wanted to fit in. They wanted to make those jokes first before any of the rest of us made them. I can't imagine how isolated they must have felt at school. I can't imagine how difficult and tiring it must have been for them within that context. I don't specifically remember things that were said to them that were cruel, although I'm sure there was. I'm sure no matter how subconsciously, will have said things that probably hurt them in those days. And I guarantee you that today they still remember those things that were said, even if I have forgotten them. You see, I don't think there's many of us, certainly within my context, who think that they struggle with racism. They think that actually it's not something that they have a problem with. But the more that I read, the more that I listen, the more that I understand, the more that I realise that we all have said and done things that we may have thought were inoffensive, but in fact were at their core racist. We may not have meant it, but that's the way that it was heard. And so many white people don't want to speak up on the topic of racism because we're scared that we're going to get it wrong. So even me doing this video, in truth, I'm scared that I've used the wrong terminology, that I've put something the wrong way. But I've decided to take the advice of one of my friends who's a pastor, who said, hey, white people, you're going to speak up and you're going to get it wrong, but getting it wrong is better than not saying anything at all. I think it's important that we do it. You see, any thought system, any ideology, any construct that says that I can ascribe more or less worth to a person based on the colour of their skin or the country that they were born in is a thought system, is a construct, is an ideology that is flawed. It's one that's built on evil. And that's what racism does. Racism is evil. Yes, it's a social issue, it's a political issue, but at its root, it is a spiritual issue, an evil spiritual issue. Unfortunately, racism is alive in the UK. And it's the job of all of us to get serious about changing the narrative in this, so that our kids, that our grandkids and their kids will actually grow up somewhere where racism is something that they read about rather than experiencing. It's our job to stand up and to make a difference on this topic. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts on racism in the UK.